Pope Francis just issued a decree that many consider evil, a final transformation imposed from above meant to reshape the Church forever. But this time, they're not staying silent. Catholic journalists, priests, and the faithful are starting to speak up, and the alarm is spreading globally. Perhaps for the first time, someone has the courage to say enough is enough. Stay with me, because what is happening is much more serious and dangerous than they want us to believe. Pope Francis has started a new phase of the Synod on synodality. This ever-present changing thing has one goal: to rebuild the Church from the ground up, emptying it of the powers that come from above. Francis, or whoever is working on his behalf, because let's be honest, we're not even sure if he's really in charge anymore, isn't acting alone. What we're seeing is a systematic, clear, and well-organized plan. Too many players, too many interests at stake. This isn't improvisation, it's a well-thought-out strategy, and the objective seems clearer and clearer. The word they use is accompaniment, but it's really an unstoppable push. No diocese, no parish will be able to escape it. For 2028, a universal ecclesial assembly is called, a body unlike any before, where the bishops will no longer hold the majority. The episcopate, that apostolic structure instituted by Christ, is being reduced to just one of the many elements of the people of God, made equal to selected lay people, and by whom? By Rome, naturally. It's a paradigm shift that isn't even disguised. The promoters speak of proposals that will be presented to the acting pontiff in 2028, implicitly admitting that the current pontificate's days are numbered. What's really worrying is the excitement they have when they talk about this process like it's a one-way street. There's no going back, no disagreeing, no staying put. Everyone has to move forward together, meaning everyone has to conform. The revolution, so to speak, must be constant. And it is. It is precisely at this moment, when the synodal machine accelerates and the triumphalist tones from Rome speak of accompaniment and shared journeys, that determined voices emerge. It's no longer whispers in hushed tones or anonymous comments on blogs. This time, it's priests, religious people, Catholic journalists, scholars, and committed lay people who are making themselves heard. They will not accept another revolution disguised as an update. They openly denounce the mortal risk of transforming the Church from Bride of Christ into a fluid and horizontal social project, lacking authority, doctrine, and identity. Among the first to raise the alarm is Father Gerald Murray, a prominent canon lawyer. Ecclesial debates. His analysis is sharp. Behind the new Universal Ecclesial Assembly of 2028 hides a precise plan to replace episcopal authority with a mixed assembly where the bishops will have less influence than the lay delegates chosen for their synodal sensitivity. In practice, the hierarchy willed by Christ is placed under the guardianship of a guided democracy. The Synod, instead of supporting the Pope as was planned by the Second Vatican Council, is changing into a parallel structure, able to decide, perhaps by votes, what was formerly the responsibility of the magisterium. Murray is blunt. This is not Catholicism. This is a dangerous experiment that risks turning the Church Protestant, stripping it of its own divine constitution. The term he uses is clear: destructive. This isn't about reform, but about dismantling. And like him, others begin to speak. The silence is over. Along with Father Murray, who renewed the alarm, well-known figures from the Catholic world emerge, observers who have been watching the synodal drift for years. One of them is Diane Montagna, a journalist among the most feared in Vatican press conferences, who doesn't let herself be fooled by the clichés or the diplomatic smiles of the cardinals. She was the one who made the protagonists of the synod sweat, posing direct and uncomfortable questions, which were often answered with uncomfortable silences or answers that said everything but the truth. And then there are editorialists like Matthew Hazel, who, with biting irony, has highlighted the absurdity of the synodal imposition. You can't get out of synodality, they claim, but no one has really committed to it. Most of the faithful, the parish priests, the dioceses have ignored this synodal charade, not out of bad faith or laziness, but because they have judged it useless, empty, distant from any real need. And yet from above, the order comes. In any case, they proceed. It doesn't matter if people aren't listening, the important thing is to pretend they are. Phil Lawler, another keen observer, sums up the situation with bitter irony. Nothing conveys listening and consultation like a decree that mandates participation, even for those who consider all of this a waste of time. Or even worse, for many faithful, this process isn't just pointless, it's harmful. It dilutes faith, replaces the supernatural with the sociological, and pushes souls away from Christ in the name of an elusive communion made of opinions and discussion groups. Among those priests who decide not to stay silent is Father Joachim Heimerl, an Austrian theologian who has long been publishing striking interventions against the ongoing mutation in the Church. His words leave no room for interpretation. What is happening under the name of synodality is not a reform, but a true theology of power. In perfect harmony, he observes, with the Promethean vision of modern man that puts man at the center and relegates God to a secondary, annoying, and useless role. A vision, he adds, that is not born from the gospel but from Goethe, and that today seems to have assumed the implicit dogma of the new synodal church. Heimerl warns against a self-deification masked as participation. We no longer listen to God, but to ourselves. We no longer seek God's will, but instead we lift up our own subjective conscience as the rule. In true serpent style, you will be like God. This, he affirms, is the poisonous root of the new path. So, synodality becomes the tool of a human-centered revolution, where it's no longer God who creates man in his image, but man who recreates God according to his own instincts. In this game of mirrors, everything becomes negotiable. Morality, liturgy, even the priesthood. It's a clear analysis, not given by an angry traditionalist, but by a priest who knows the history of the Church and the workings of power well, able to recognize the signs of deception when they appear in new forms. That's why, in his speech, Heimerl openly speaks of a Luciferian rebellion. Strong words, sure, but maybe the only language that can wake up someone who's still sleeping while there's a fire. Meanwhile, while in Rome, the mantra of the listening church spreads, the reality on the ground tells a completely different story. The numbers are clear and merciless. Seminarians decrease year after year, vocations plummet, parishes empty, and nuns disappear. However, none of the supporters of this new direction seem to be asking the simplest and most urgent question. Why are people leaving? Why are vocations drying up? Why is faith fading away? So, what did you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.